There are things that will happen in the course of our life that will stay with us throughout our lifetime. And I'm not talking about just our personal life as to, when we get married or the birth of a child. I'm saying things that affect our nation. And I was thinking today about some things that happened, and you always remember exactly where you were when these things happened. November 22nd of 1963, I was in 8th grade, homeroom. We were getting ready to leave for the day when we got the announcement that President Kennedy was shot and killed. 1968, it was the day before my graduation when Bobby Kennedy was shot. We were at our rehearsal and we got that news. Of course, the next day, graduation day, it was like bittersweet. We were happy that we were graduating, but yet we knew that Robert Kennedy died that day. 1981, when Ronald Reagan was shot, we were, for myself, I was at home in the kitchen making dinner when I got the news, and of course turned TV on. But I knew where I was, what I was doing. 1986, I was standing in front, by my front door watching television, waiting for my ride to go to work when the space shuttle, I was watching the space shuttle Challenger take off, and of course, just a little more than a minute, it exploded. That was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then of course, 9/11, that was my first day of ministry school. How are you going to forget that? There are monumental things that happen that it's like you're always going to remember where you were, what you were doing when you got this news. Yesterday, I was just coming into, I was in Georgia on my way to a ministry trip just on the outskirts of the town, and I turned on the radio to Fox News. And I did not know that President Trump was going to be in Butler, PA. My son and his family lived just maybe a half hour from there. Well, I began listening as, he began speaking and started talking about the immigration chart that he had. And then I heard the funny sounds and it went silent. The speakers, the announcers just were silent, and they were trying to gather their thoughts, what was going on, and unsure what was taking place. I began to pray. I'm like, Lord, something's not right, and I just began to pray, and I pulled off the road into a gas station. And of course, then they were kind of gathering their thoughts, what was taking place, etc. So I know where I was, what I was doing, and the thing that stood out in my mind, and it wasn't right that moment, okay? I began praying, and I called other people to begin praying. And I know at our church, we have definitely been praying intensely for President Trump. But I found out that the time that happened, I didn't pay attention that much right this second, but it was 6/11. And I thought, okay, it is Genesis 6:11. And of course, this is why the Lord sent the flood. In the Amplified, it says, the earth was depraved and putrid in God's sight, and the land was filled with violence, desecration, infringement, outrage, assault, and lust for power. That's really powerful. But if you look at what has been taking place in our nation, and especially with this election, there's been so much hatred and discord, and it's just awful, just the things that are being spewed out of so many people's mouths. It's not just the candidates, it's many people. Everybody wants to voice their negative opinion. And I was just shocked. It's hard to believe that something like this can happen, that there can be such hatred among people. But that is what Genesis 6:11, those things, desecration, infringement, outrage, assault, lust for power. Okay, so you know, I believe this is a time that we've been talking about a reset. I believe this incident itself is the beginning of a reset for America. We have got to turn back to God. First time I think ever, when I turned on the news, the newscasters, even the ones that were covering at the event that day, they were all praising God. They were thanking God. They were saying it was divine intervention. They know that the hand of God is upon him, that, you know, just the slightest thing would have killed him. I am so just discouraged and devastated, really, about the one man who lost his life, and then there's 2 others that were injured badly. You know, these things should never happen. We should be able to go to an event like this and have the freedom to be there, and to not be afraid that somebody's going to try to assassinate somebody, and not even that. I mean, it's everybody that was there. I mean, something even worse could have happened. These things should not be. We have a free nation, but is it really free anymore? You know, it's really discouraging. I know that earlier this year, the Lord spoke to me about the prayers of the saints. He said there's 2 things. His greatest message is that the prayers of the saints, and they were crying out, the prayers of the saints in heaven and the ones on earth. It's like in heaven they were coming down, and in earth they were coming up. And they've come before his throne, and they're crying out for 2 things. One is for justice in the earth, and that's Revelation 6:10. And I want to read Revelation 6:10. They're crying out, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" And the other thing was the salvation of the lost, and that's Revelation 5:8. That says, "When he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having the harp and the bowls of incense, which are the prayers of the saints, and they began crying out to the Lord." So it's a time that the prayers that we have been praying, and the saints in heaven, they have been crying out to God. He is hearing them and bringing justice, and that is Revelation 8:3 and 4. So the angel came having a golden censer, stood before the altar with much incense, and he would offer the prayers of the saints, of all the saints, with the golden altar, which came before the throne, and the smoke and the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended before God from the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer filled with fire from the altar and threw it to the earth. And these were the noises of thunders and lightnings and earthquakes. Now, God is judging the earth, okay? There's a lot of things that, because of the wickedness of mankind, he has to judge the earth. We need to be praying for our leaders. We need to be praying for peace. We need to be praying for love, for unity. We need to be striving to work together instead of all this division, all this hatred. We as a nation need to turn back to God. Yesterday was July 13th. Today, of course, is July 14th, which I woke up this morning thinking about this. It's 2 Chronicles 7:14. You know, it's, if my people, you know, Solomon had just dedicated the temple, and after he did, the glory of the Lord filled the temple. It says Solomon, let's see, this is 2 Chronicles 7:1. Solomon finished praying. Fire came down from heaven, consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple. Think about that. We need to be sacrificing. What are we sacrificing? Maybe we need to be giving up some of our carnal nature and sacrificing our time. There are so many that are lost out there. Could we be willing to give up our TV program or a golf game or something, I don't know, whatever we do, and go look for and help and bring other people in? It's time of great harvest. We can't just do it from our seat with the remote control in our hand, all right? What are we willing to sacrifice? But it's after that time, Solomon had a visitation of the Lord. Verse 12, the Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayers and have chosen this place for myself as a house of sacrifice. Well, we are that temple today. And when I shut up heaven and there is no rain, or command the locust to devour the land, or settle the pestilence among my people. See, those are judgments that he was bringing then. Today, it's earthquakes, volcanoes, mudslides, hurricanes, tornadoes, okay? There's many things taking place in the earth. Floods, fires, think about that. But he says, when those things come, if my people, this is his people that are called by his name. This is not the guy on the street that doesn't know the Lord. It's your responsibility to go minister to him. But if my people who are called by my name, if they will humble themselves, we need to humble ourselves. Get out of ourselves. Quit walking in pride. Pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. It starts in our house first. Then he will forgive their sin. He'll hear from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their land. We need a healing in this land. There's been way too much innocent blood that was shed. And that's something else the Lord said to me yesterday morning. And I didn't know this was going to take place. But he said, look at what is happening in this nation. The innocent blood that's being shed. Well, that's exactly what has taken place. And we need it to stop. But it only stops by us turning ourselves to the Lord. You know, recently I had a dream. I got some criticism about that because I said in the dream I was married to Donald Trump. I don't have a fantasy about me being married to Donald Trump. He has a beautiful wife. I simply represent the church, the bride of Christ. But I really believe that this is a turning point also for him. I believe he has had an acquaintance with the Lord, but I think this is putting things in a different perspective for him as well. I believe he's going to receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and he is going to be on fire, just like in that dream I had. He was standing in front of the fireplace. He is going to be on fire for the Lord, and God has chosen this man to turn this nation back. Not that we worship Donald Trump, we do not. We worship the Lord, but he is an instrument in the hand of the Lord. And he is chosen, just like Esther was, chosen for such a time as now to turn this nation back. But it is us. He can't do it by himself. He might be a little bit outrageous sometimes, but you know, this is the way God has made him. Look at what he did. Okay, he was braised, he was shot, and he's okay, fight. He's saying to us, victory. We can't back down. We cannot cower. We can't give up. We must fight. And that is for us. We are in the army of God. There's been a lot of cowards in the army, and God's raising up his army, okay? And we must fight. We must be in the full armor of God every single day. We can't keep bowing down to the way of the enemy. We must march forward, and we must go into this battle. It is a spiritual battle. I heard Mike Huckabee on TV last night. He said, you may not want to hear this, but it's a spiritual battle. It is. It is. And we have got to stay on our knees. We have got to stay in a place of prayer. We must be defeating the enemy at every corner. That's the truth. We must do this because The devil uses his little cohorts and God uses his saints, but we can't give up. We can't back up. We have got to go forward. We must keep our eyes on the Lord, okay? On the Lord. Be praying for all the leaders in this nation. We need just judges. Years ago, the Lord used to send me to courthouses and state buildings, and it was to pray to unseat the unjust judges and to replace them with just judges. Okay, we need God-fearing, God-righteous people in our government. I think you're going to see a shift coming in our government, in the judicial system. It's like the Lord is saying enough is enough. He's bringing his hammer down, and he is the just judge. So remember, pray for our nation. We need the prayers of the saints going up to the Lord, mixing with the prayers of the saints coming down for justice in the earth. The Lord has told me there will be earthquakes, volcanoes like we haven't seen before. There's going to be a lot of eruptions taking place, things that we haven't seen, tornadoes and the hurricanes, the terrific wind force that's coming. So there's a lot of things that's coming. He is judging the earth. So, all right. Well, I've said all I can say, but please pray. This nation needs you. God bless America, and America must bless God. All right. Till next time, be blessed.